Stop and think about this for a second. Somewhere, thousands of years ago, a human looked at a large, nervous animal, walked up to it, reached underneath it, and decided to drink whatever came out. No recipe. No instructions. No reason to think it was safe. Just pure, reckless curiosity. And here's the part that makes it so much stranger. When that first human drank that milk, they almost certainly couldn't digest it. It would have made them sick. Bloating, cramps, the works. So they got sick, and they did it again. And again. For 3,000 years, humans kept drinking a liquid their bodies were literally not built to handle, long before evolution ever caught up and made it safe. Why? Who was the maniac who started this? And what finally rewired the human body to make milk okay? Let's rewind the tape all the way back. Picture the world about 10,000 years ago. No farms. No fences. No animals you could call yours. Humans are hunter-gatherers, following herds, digging up roots, cracking nuts. And crucially, after a human baby stops nursing, that's it. That's the last milk they will ever drink in their life. Because here's a fact most people never learn, for almost every mammal on Earth, including ancient humans, the body switches off milk digestion after childhood. There's an enzyme called lactase. It breaks down the sugar in milk. Babies are loaded with it. But as you grow up, your body normally stops making it, because why waste energy digesting milk when no adult mammal drinks milk? So to an adult human 10,000 years ago, milk wasn't food. It was baby stuff. And more importantly, it belonged to a wild animal that really did not want to share. This is the world our mystery milk drinker was born into. A world where drinking milk was pointless, difficult, and kind of gross. And yet, before anyone could drink milk regularly, one enormous thing had to happen first. Humans had to stop chasing animals, and start keeping them. This is domestication, and it's one of the biggest turning points in the entire human story. Around 10 to 11,000 years ago, in a region called the Fertile Crescent, modern-day Turkey, Iraq, Iran, that area, humans began to tame goats, sheep, and eventually cattle. Now, they didn't do this for milk. Let's be clear. They did it for meat, for hides, for a walking food supply that couldn't run away. A herd of goats is basically a living pantry. But once you're living right next to animals every single day, you start to notice things. You notice the mother animals producing milk for their young. You watch the babies drink it and grow strong and fast. And some observant, probably very hungry human connects the dots. That white liquid. It's food. It's food the animal makes fresh, every day, for free, without you having to kill it. That realization, milk as a renewable resource, is the spark. But there's still a giant problem standing in the way. Remember the enzyme? The one adults don't have. Our ancestors were about to walk face first into it. So imagine our brave, or just starving, ancestor. Let's call him the first dairy pioneer. He collects some fresh milk. He drinks it down. And a few hours later, his stomach declares war. This is lactose intolerance, and if you have it, you know exactly what our pioneer felt. The undigested milk sugar hits the gut, the bacteria there have a feast, and the result is gas, bloating, cramps, and a very unpleasant afternoon. Here's the thing that genuinely stunned scientists when they figured it out. We used to assume the story went like this: humans got the milk digesting gene, then they started drinking milk. Cause, then effect. Simple. Nope. It's backwards. The hard evidence, and I mean actual milk residue scraped out of 9,000-year-old pottery, shows humans across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa were making and consuming dairy for thousands of years while most of them still couldn't properly digest it. Let that sink in. For roughly 3,000 years, humans drank a liquid that, for most of them, caused genuine discomfort. They knew it might make them feel bad. And they kept doing it anyway. Which raises the obvious question, why? Why push through that? Were our ancestors just stubborn? Not exactly. They were clever. Because they found a loophole. Here's where ancient humans turn out to be way smarter than we give them credit for. The problem with milk is the sugar, lactose. So what if you could get rid of most of the sugar, but keep all the good stuff, the fat, the protein, the calcium? Turns out, nature does this for you. Leave milk sitting out, and wild bacteria move in and start eating the lactose, turning it into acid. The milk curdles and sours. And what you're left with is the ancestors of yogurt and cheese. This probably wasn't invented on purpose. It was almost certainly an accident. Some milk got left in a warm container, went funny, and a hungry human tried it anyway, and discovered it didn't wreck their stomach the way fresh milk did. Because most of the troublesome sugar was already gone. Cheese was an even bigger breakthrough. When you make cheese, most of the lactose drains away in the liquid way. What stays behind is a dense, storable, stomach-friendly brick of nutrition. Suddenly milk isn't a risky drink, it's a food you can keep for months and carry with you. This is the real answer to how humans figured out milk. Not by drinking it straight and toughing it out, but by outsmarting their own guts with fermentation. Cheese and yogurt let humans get the enormous benefits of dairy while dodging the painful downside. So if fermentation solved the problem, then why did our bodies bother to evolve at all? Why did the milk-digesting gene ever spread? This is where the story takes its darkest, most surprising turn. For a long time, scientists had a neat, tidy explanation. Milk is nutritious. People who could digest fresh milk got more calories, more calcium, had healthier kids, and passed on the milk-digesting gene. Over time, the gene took over. Nice and logical. Then a huge study came along and blew that idea apart. Researchers built the biggest map of ancient dairy ewes ever made, nearly 7,000 fat residues from pottery across 550 archaeological sites, spanning 9,000 years. Then they lined it up against ancient DNA from over 1,700 prehistoric people. If the tidy theory was right, the milk-digesting gene should have spread fastest exactly where people drank the most milk. Makes sense, right? It didn't. The gene spread did not track with how much milk people were using. The neat explanation was wrong. So what actually drove it? The researchers landed on something much grimmer. Two things, famine and disease. Here's the logic. If you're lactose intolerant, drinking milk gives you an upset stomach, annoying, but survivable when times are good. But now imagine a famine. Crops fail. People are starving and desperate. In that situation, they'll drink whatever they can get, including lots of fresh milk. And for someone who can't digest it, severe diarrhea when you're already malnourished isn't just uncomfortable, it can kill you. So during famines and disease outbreaks, the people who happened to carry the milk-digesting gene were more likely to survive. Not because milk made them a little healthier every day, but because in the worst moments, when it was milk or death, their bodies didn't betray them. It wasn't the carrot. It was the stick. Survival of the ones who could stomach it, decided in humanity's darkest hours. And once that pressure kicked in, the change was dramatic. The milk-digesting gene is now considered one of the most strongly favored genetic traits in the entire human genome over the last 10,000 years. That's how powerful the advantage eventually became. But it was slow. The gene first shows up in the DNA record around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, and it stayed rare for a long time. It didn't become common until roughly 3,000 years ago. That's thousands of years of humans drinking milk before the biology finally, widely caught up. And here's a detail I love, this didn't happen just once. Populations in Europe, in East Africa, in the Middle East and Arabia each evolved their own versions of milk tolerance, independently. Different mutations, same solution. When a food is valuable enough, evolution finds the same answer over and over in different corners of the world. Today, about a third of adults on Earth can comfortably digest fresh milk. The other 2/3? They're actually the global norm, and most of them, it turns out, can still handle modest amounts of dairy, or they stick to the ancient hack of cheese and yogurt. The same loophole our ancestors stumbled onto thousands of years ago is still doing its job in kitchens today. So the humble glass of milk in your fridge is the end point of a 10,000-year saga, a wild animal tamed, a painful experiment endured, a brilliant fermentation trick discovered, and a genetic rewrite forged in famine. So let's go back to our original question. Who was the maniac who drank milk first? The honest answer is, we'll probably never know their name. But now we know the kind of person they were. Someone living cheek to cheek with their animals. Someone hungry enough, and curious enough, to try something no adult was supposed to want. Someone who felt sick, and thought about it, and figured out a better way. That's the pattern behind basically every food you eat. Somebody, somewhere, was brave or desperate enough to try the thing that looked disgusting, the first person to eat an oyster, the first to try a chili pepper, the first to eat a moldy cheese on purpose. Human history is quietly built on these nameless, fearless, slightly reckless tasters. And it makes you wonder what we're still too squeamish to try today. Insects as everyday food? Lab-grown meat? Something we haven't even thought of? 1,000 years from now, someone might make a video asking, who was crazy enough to eat that first? So here's my question for you, what's a food you think future humans will look back on as totally normal, that most people won't touch today? Drop it in the comments, I read them all, and the weirder your answer, the better. If you enjoyed this trip into the deep past, the like button genuinely helps the channel more than you'd think. And next time, we're asking, Who was the first person to cook food with fire, and what did it do to our brains? The answer changed our species forever. See you then.